So if you guys have been around the channel for a while now, you may remember when I powder coated the frame for the YZ125 at my in-home garage. It was an absolute nightmare. I don't know what to do. I've lost my mind completely now. It did not go quite as planned, although we did get the frame powder coated. What we're gonna be doing today is getting the frame for the Retro KX250 build powder coated. Once again, in my garage, but with a better plan this time. So we're gonna be taking this frame to this. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna walk you guys through how I coat this big, bulky frame, how I get it sandblasted, how I get the powder on, how I get the powder cured, all at my in-home garage, and how to get pretty good looking results in the end. So if you guys are looking to do this yourself, you can get your frame powder coated and save some extra money. First things first, we've got our frame here, and what you wanna do first, which I've already done, is you wanna degrease this frame super well because you don't want the grease getting into your sandblast media and contaminating the media. Now I'm gonna jump over to my Sandblaster and show you guys what I came up with for my Sandblaster. So this is Sandblaster V2. You guys may remember on the YZ125 build, when I built the Sandblaster out of 1/4-inch drywall, it just wasn't good enough. So I did make a V2. It's still not completely done yet. It's got some improvements to be made, but it's a lot better. This was super cheap to build. What we've got is we've got a glass top. This is just a 24 by 36 piece of glass. It's very fragile, by the way. Make sure you don't toss anything on top of this thing because this glass will shatter so fast. So I'm gonna show you guys the inside. What I've got is a couple shelf brackets that are held on with just some pieces of aluminum flat stock I had laying around. And I've got my Sandblaster in there. I've got my light hanging up so we can see really nice and well. Coming over to the side, we have got our shop vac for dust collection here. We've got an air hookup here. And then inside we do have a water collector hanging out here so we're not blasting a bunch of water in to our sandblast media. There's a Sandblaster, got the gloves hanging out there, and that's where the dust is collected. If you guys would like to see a more in-depth video on this Sandblaster, I could walk you through it, but I'm just kind of showing you the very basics of it right now, just so you guys can see if you do need to sandblast something, you can build something super simple like this and you can get your frame blasted. You can also do it outside, but the problem with that is that you don't collect your media. So that's the whole point of this blaster here, is to keep the mess down and recollect the media to reuse. I am using the 50-pound spot blaster kit from Harbor Freight. Once again, this is a super nice sandblaster for the price. It's not the best thing on the market, but it does the trick. All right, so what we're gonna do, now that I've showed you guys the Sandblaster, we're gonna go ahead, pop that frame into this thing, start getting it sandblasted. I'm gonna give you guys a little time lapse of that, and then we are going to start on the next steps. I'll tell you guys what, it feels a lot better having a plan on what to actually do to sandblast and powder coat this frame this time, because last time I was just winging it big time, so I'm still winging it. Don't get me wrong, but I have a better idea of what we got going on now. So I just popped the frame in the Sandblaster. We're gonna set the GoPro down, give you guys the time lapse of the sandblasting of the frame. Hopefully this should be super easy. What I'm using actually is coal slag, and I'm using coal slag because it's cheap, and for what I'm doing here, it's perfect for the steel and getting rid of the powder. It's got the perfect grit for me. It worked super well. So I'm using coal slag. It's like 13 bucks for a 50-pound bag. So yeah, let's go ahead, get you guys on a time lapse. All right, 7 long hours later, the frame is finally sandblasted, and I know that seems insane that it took that long, but it's a lot of nooks and crannies and a lot of work in there. So much respect for all the people that sandblast for a living, because that is that's pretty brutal. Okay, so now that I got the frame all sandblasted, what the plan is I'm gonna give it a wipe down in acetone, and that's gonna get rid of all the grease and all the things that we missed. I'm gonna do that before we outgas it, which is a process of baking the frame so all the gases and oils escape. For an oven, you guys might be wondering what I'm gonna be doing for an oven. So for the oven, I'm going to be using, you probably could see it back there, but those 4x8 sheets of foil-faced insulation board. I tried this in the last video, but I didn't do something. I didn't insulate the bottom of it. So basically the concrete floor of the garage was just sucking up all the heat. So it didn't get quite hot enough to do the frame. But this time I'm gonna do it differently, that I learned from one of you guys, one of my subscribers actually seen that powder coating video and made an oven himself. And what he did was he built the box the correct way and then used 2 heat guns. So he said it worked out fantastic for him. So that's what I'm gonna be doing in this episode as well. I'm gonna be building the box properly, which I should have done before, insulating the floor, and then I'm also going to be using 2 heat guns this time, so that temperature should be getting way up. So I think I can use that to outgas my frame. If not, I'm gonna be using a blowtorch, and then we will be able to get this frame coated. So we're actually doing purple on this frame, which is 2 stages. So it should be really, really cool. Let's go ahead, get this frame wiped down, blew off and everything, and then we can get to spraying powder.
Tonight's the night, we're gonna take off these chains. Some moves will never mend. It came with a warning, now we're all out of time. This romance with ignorance has left us behind. Sit back, relax, begin. It's too early for some.
All right, so here is the completed box. You can see it's just made out of that styrofoam, foil face styrofoam insulation board, like I said. And what I went ahead and did is I taped up all my seams. Make sure you use the metal duck, actual metal foil tape, because if you don't, if you use the other stuff that looks like the metal, it'll just melt on you. Ask me how I know. I've already tested this, by the way. It gets up really, really hot. All right, so for the dimensions on this, this is 30 inches tall and 40 inches wide, both sides. And then the side here is 15 inches wide, 30 inches tall. And then the bottom is, geez, what is it, 40 by 15. So this works out perfect for fitting the Cowie frame, and I'm pretty sure it would have done the YZ frame really, really well as well. But this box works. It works really well. I already tested it. And what I got for the top here is just another piece. And make sure on your edges, you tape your edges, because if you don't, the foam will start to melt, because this is getting up to about 400 degrees for powder. So make sure you just got all your edges marked, or make sure you got all your edges taped. And there it is. So I set that on there, and then I put I'll show you guys how it works, but I set that lid on there and I put 2 10-pound weights on each side. It's just MIG welding wire, but it got up to about 450 degrees. It got a little hot, so I gotta make sure I gotta regulate the temperature. I don't wanna get too hot, but that is the box and it does work. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna get that frame wiped down, acetone bath it, and then we're going to go ahead and put it in this oven and outgas that frame. All right, so the frame is all outgassed, and if you guys don't know what that is, that's basically baking the frame so you get all the oils that are trapped in the metal outside. So you don't want, because you don't want to put this in the oven and then have it curing at 400 degrees and the oil comes out and it'll ruin the powder. Now, what we are spraying is Prismatic Powder Dirty Magic Purple. Now this is a super, super cool color, but there's a trick to it. It's actually a 2-stage powder, and I've never done this before. So first I gotta spray this chrome base. So the frame's first gonna come out in like a high chrome, like the semi wheels and stuff, and then I have to go and spray this Dirty Magic, the Dirty Magic on there. So I've never done this before. I'm very nervous. Wish me luck. I hope it comes out good. As always, I'm using the Harbor Freight powder coating gun. I hope this also works, because I've heard with 2-coat stuff, you have to do dual voltage guns. So this is not a dual voltage gun, so I hope. So wish me luck. I hope this comes out good. But what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna set up. I've got the gun loaded up right now with this chrome. We're gonna get the first coat on this, get this thing beautified, get it in the oven, and see how it turns out.
Am I nervous? Yes. You know what? The only way to do something is just to do it. It's the only way you learn, so here we go.
Someone had to tumble and someone had to stand.
One thing I am going to do, put ladders on each side and support the weight of the frame off the ladders and not off the styrofoam, because I'm worried about when this box heats up. Like I said, it's only styrofoam, that the weight of the frame is going to blow out the sides and collapse the box. So this has to cure at 400 degrees for 10 minutes, but the actual metal has to be up to 400 degrees. So in reality, this thing might be in here for a half hour. So that's why I want to support these edges and make sure.
Hey, nothing you can do, and I'm gonna run all over you. It's too late to try.
All right, frame is in the oven, supported. It's time to get the heat guns and start baking this thing.
There's nothing you can do. I'm gonna run all over you. I'm looking for new blood.
All right, so reading the technical service bulletins on prismatic powder for this powder, I believe from what I'm reading that you want to gel it and then pull it out, let it cool to room temperature, and do all that. So we've been in the oven for about 15 minutes, and we're about to pull the top and see what it looks like and see if it's ready to pull out for our second coat, which is that dirty mat. Woo! All right, I think it's ready. Hold on, let me shut these heat guns off and I'll bring you guys in. I'm so glad this is working. Look at this. Oh my God, look at it. I'm half tempted to keep this. I'm not even kidding. All right, let's get this out though before it gets too hot. We've got stage 2 powder going on. I tried one time already, a little bit, but it wasn't working right. I had some water in my line, so we're gonna go again. I just put an inline water separator in. I've got one in, so I'm doubling up now. All right, so I have got the frame in the oven again. You can see there's purple everywhere. I had to redo that a couple times because my gun is only single voltage. And when you do 2 coats like that, you really want a dual voltage gun. So I'm not 100% sure how this frame's gonna come out. When I was spraying, there was a couple areas that were fish-eyeing. I had to blow the frame off like 3 or 4 times. So I do have a video of me powder coating originally, the first video, but after that I kind of stopped and just kind of tried to keep doing what I was doing. I'm hoping, fingers crossed, it comes out good. I got pretty good coverage, especially on the areas that matter. That first coat of the Super Chrome came out super nice, but that second coat was a lot harder to do because I don't think that Harbor Freight gun is strong enough to do 2 coats. So I will definitely be investing in a dual voltage gun, but if this comes out good enough, hopefully, if there's any areas I could just touch them up with a paint marker or something like that. So I'm hoping in all the areas that count that this comes out really nice. Also, I realized I didn't show you guys this, but we've been running about 10 minutes and you can see we're at 383 and climbing. It heats a lot slower with the frame in the actual oven because that metal is absorbing a lot of the heat. But you can see this time the oven situation figured out. We got something good now. So now I can actually powder coat the wheels on this build as well. Besides spray painting them like I did last time, I built this so a wheel would fit in there, but you could see the oven works absolutely great. So far, like I said, we're gonna see how it comes out, but so far, the only problem I've had with this whole process is not having that dual voltage gun. So I've got the frame out and all cured. It's cool to the touch now. You guys can see this thing looks absolutely beautiful. Let me get you up close and get a little light on it so you can see that all that metallic in there. Look at that. The coating came out super nice. I'm trying to get that metallic on camera really well, but all in all, that frame came out super trick. I am very, very happy with it. The results this time were a whole lot better than last time. I'll tell you that. The process was way, way better. I do apologize. I did not get a video of when it came out in that Super Chrome. I thought I did, and apparently I did not. I think this Cowie build is going to be absolutely sweet with this purple frame and that metallic in there. The camera doesn't pick it up as good as you can see it in person, but as soon as that thing hits some light, man, does that look nice. So, I mean, you guys can see here, you can get some pretty good results at home, in the garage, with a couple of things. And what I'm gonna do now is just walk you guys through pretty much the cost of everything, what it costs to build the sandblast cabinet and the oven. and see if you guys think it's worth it to do this at home or if you want to get it sent out for yourself. So what I do recommend for you guys, if you are looking to do this at home, is getting a better powder coating setup. So the one I have, the Harbor Freight setup, is only single voltage. And now, so for doing 2 coats like the powder I have, you actually should have a dual voltage gun. And that helps with increasing the voltage or lowering the voltage when you need to get in the nooks and crannies, and giving you a little bit of extra voltage when you need to spray that second coat of powder. Because the problem I had with the single voltage gun, when it came to the second coat after the US Chrome Metallic, was that the powder was starting to fisheye a little bit. And I thought it was contaminant, so I cleaned the part really well. That wasn't it. It ended up being that the voltage of the gun wasn't quite high enough, so when the powder would try to go onto the frame, it wouldn't stick in some areas and it would fisheye on me. What I actually ended up doing to combat that was I did my first coat with some fisheyes in there, pulled it out of the oven. It didn't look perfect, so while the frame was hot, about 250 degrees, I did a hot coat on the part. So I sprayed the powder when the part was still hot. The powder adhered beautifully that time, and then I popped it back in the oven and gave it its final coat. And the results you guys see there is how it turned out. But I would recommend getting the Eastwood gun. That's dual voltage. I know a lot of people that have it and they really, really like it. It's $100. It's about the same price as that Harbor Freight setup. And to have that dual voltage 2 coat coatings like the ones I have, so worth it. So now we're gonna walk you guys through the prices of everything that it costs to build the oven and the Sandblaster. All right, so the price to build the oven. Now the oven worked out super well, and the price to build this, including everything, including the 2 heat guns, all the installation board, the tape and everything, was right around $100. So that to me is completely worth it for what you can do with this: frames, wheels, big items. Now I'm not sure how many uses this oven's gonna have, how many heat cycles it's gonna be able to take before it starts to really bow out. I think if you framed up like an exoskeleton for it or something, it would be a lot better. But yep, the 2 heat guns and all the installation board and the tape and everything was right at $100 for the oven. So not too expensive for what you get out of the oven. Now for the Sandblaster here, the cost to build the Sandblaster was right around $190. Now that is including the price of the Sandblaster and everything here. The only thing I did not include was the price of the casters and the shelf brackets, because those are 2 things I had lying around and I'm not 100% sure on the price. I believe casters for 4 of them are about $15, and then a shelf bracket, it depends on where you're at. If you have a Menards near you or a Home Depot or whatever you have, those could run anywhere from $10 to $30. So you can increase the price whatever you want, but the Sandblast cabinet was right around $190. Now, if I were to rebuild this Sandblast cabinet, I would definitely do it differently. And that Harbor Freight Sandblaster, that 50-pound one, like I said, it's good for the money, but it really slows down the process of sandblasting quite a bit because the feed system on it's not great. So you're gonna be sitting there for quite a while. It took me about 7 hours to get this frame sandblasted completely. And with that cabinet I have, it's kind of hard to get to all the nooks and crannies, but that could be changed with better building technique, because the way I built that Sandblast cabinet, it's really good for small parts and medium-sized parts, but big things like these frames, it's a little clunky in there. So yeah, $190 for the blast cabinet and $100 for the oven. Now at the price of the Sandblaster and the oven combined, you're pretty much getting to the price of having this frame professionally sandblasted. The difference is if you're doing an entire bike. So if you're doing wheels as well, or you're doing other big parts, that makes it worth it, because when you have to powder coat and sandblast multiple items professionally, that gets very expensive. Or if you build multiple bikes, it makes sense. But if you're just doing a frame, it almost makes more sense to just send it out to get it professionally powder coated with the price of those 2 things. Now, if you have the material lying around for the Sandblaster and the oven, definitely worth it. Or if you're like me and you just like to do everything yourself in the garage because it's a satisfaction kind of thing, I think it's certainly worth it for me, because I do this stuff quite often. And this is not gonna be the last big frame I powder coat. So I'm gonna be using that oven and that Sandblaster quite a bit, but the results you guys can see came out super nice. I am stoked the way this frame looks. Well guys, I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Retro KX250 build. We've got the frame powder coated. Now in the next episode, what we're gonna be doing is building the engine. I love this frame. Seeing it is really putting into perspective what this build's gonna be, and I cannot wait. I am so happy the way this powder turned out. Let me know, guys, what you think of the frame and what you wanna see on the colors of this build, because once again, it's a build I'm letting you guys build. So you guys chose purple, and we've got purple in front of us here, and you guys chose pretty dang well. So stay tuned for the next episode, which is gonna be the engine build of the KX250, and I just think we might get ambitious and just drop it in here just to see what it looks like.